Max Crosby was very open and honest after the game when talking to local reporters. One thing that really stood out from everything he said is how frustrated and upset he seems right now. And honestly, I get it. He has so much passion for the game. When he was asked about davante Adams's trade request, he had some interesting comments. The reporter asked him, "How tough was it this week with all the davante stuff?" Max responded, "It is what it is. You think I'm not used to dealing with stuff like this? I've been dealing with it my whole career. davante is my boy. I love him. He's going to do what he's going to do. I'm praying for him and I wish him the best. He's not healthy right now and needs to get healthy. But we're focused on the Raiders. We're focused on the players who are here now and on winning. That's all that matters." I totally understand where Max Crosby is coming from. He mentioned that davante Adams has a real injury, which was surprising to me, but he also made it clear that he's been dealing with these kinds of situations throughout his career with the Raiders. Think about it. Requesting a trade just 5 weeks into the season is very unusual. Players usually request trades before the season even starts if they're unhappy. But for the Raiders, this isn't new. When Max Crosby joined the team, we had the Antonio Brown drama, where Brown signed with the Raiders but never played a single game before being released. Then, Derek Carr, who brought over davante Adams, got benched and eventually left the team. We've had head coaches like John Gruden and Josh McDaniels get fired mid-season. Max has been through so much with the Raiders, and it's tough because we, as fans, are going through it all with him. Max isn't being negative here, he's just passionate, and I respect that a lot. In fact, that's one reason why I have so much respect for him. This past week, if you follow the Raiders closely, you might have heard former general manager Michael Lombardi talking about Max Crosby. He went on the Pat McAfee show and said he thinks Max is holding out, not showing up to games, and could be the next player to request a trade. Max responded to these comments and didn't hold back. He said, "I have to hear these clowns talking online and on the Pat McAfee show, saying something's going on and speaking for me. They say I should be on the sideline when I've got a high ankle sprain. These clowns sit on a couch and talk about what I should be doing. The reality is I'm trying to get healthy so I can get back on the field. Everyone knows my intentions. If you want to know what's going on, speak to me. Don't speak for me." It's clear Max isn't happy with people making assumptions about him. He wants to set the record straight and make sure people understand his true intentions. Max Crosby continued to express his frustration about people commenting on things they don't really understand. He said, "When you don't know what's going on, don't speak for me. These guys in the locker room know I would take a bullet for them." But then you have clowns online or people who get one day a week to go on the Pat McAfee show and talk like they know everything. Some of them were GMS for only a year. It's embarrassing. Don't speak for me. I'll speak for myself and my guys. That's what matters to me. Max then added, "I can handle the heat. I've been through it. But don't speak about me or the organization if you don't know what's going on. People say, something must be happening with Max. Come on, bro. You think I want to be anywhere else? I've got the Raiders tattooed on my body. I don't want to go anywhere. At the end of the day, it's just funny how some people have a lot to say when they really don't know what's happening." I love how Max Crosby is setting the record straight. He's passionate about playing for the Las Vegas Raiders and has no intention of leaving. Even though the Raiders haven't shown consistency or had much success lately, I don't think they're that far off. The hope is that in the next 2 years, they can turn things around and start winning. Max is being brutally honest, and I respect that. He's telling us his thoughts and opinions openly, which is exactly what the Raiders need right now. On another note, head coach Antonio Pierce addressed the situation with the quarterbacks. The Raiders definitely need a solid quarterback, but it's unclear who that will be for the rest of the season. When Pierce was asked about who would start at quarterback next week, he said, "I don't have an answer for that one yet." He's not committing to anyone just yet. Whether it's Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell, Pierce is keeping his options open. And I think that's the right move. A couple of weeks ago, when Gardner came out of the game and Aiden stepped in, I thought Pierce would come out and say, "Gardner is our guy going forward." But now, I'm not so sure if sticking with Gardner is the best option. What's unfortunate is that Gardner actually started his last game really well. If he hadn't thrown that pick six to Patrick Surtain and had instead completed the pass to Brock Bowers for a touchdown, the Raiders would have been up 17-3. Gardner probably would still be the starting quarterback right now. Raider Nation would be fired up, and the momentum would have been with the team. But the opposite happened. Gardner threw an interception, played poorly, and eventually got benched. It's a tough situation for the Raiders right now. It almost makes sense for them to switch to Aiden O'Connell, especially since the season isn't over yet. They still have a chance to turn things around, and maybe a change at quarterback is what's needed. I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is a terrible quarterback. I'd be okay with him continuing to play, but I also want to see another quarterback run this offense. I need to see Aiden O'Connell get a chance to show what he can do. I believe Luke Getsy is a problem for the Raiders' offense, but we need to see how a different quarterback handles the system to know for sure. For a long time, I heard that Justin Fields was the issue. People said he wasn't a pocket passer, couldn't make the necessary throws, and couldn't play within the system. They said when Luke Getsy finally had a pocket passer, everything would be fine, and he'd prove he's on the same level as Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan. Well, I want to see that now. Gardner Minshew was asked about the interception he threw, and I respect his response. He was asked what slowed them down after a good start, and he said, "I know, man, we really have to get back and watch the tape. It's easier to see it from that vantage point. So, we'll check it out and fix what we can." The reporter then mentioned that the interception started a 31-point run by the opposing team and asked if that was an emotional blow to the team. Minshew responded, "I don't know about emotional, but it definitely changed the game. Obviously, I can't do that to our team. It put us in a bad spot, and that swing was definitely on me." When asked if he thought he was held on the play, he said, "I don't know about that." Another reporter asked if he noticed anything during practice that led to this outcome, and Minshew replied, "No, man. I thought we got off to a good start, and then I killed our momentum with that pick six. At the end of the day, I didn't do a good enough job of giving us a chance to be competitive. That's on me. We'll show up tomorrow, get back to work like we always do, and keep moving forward." When Antonio Pierce switched to Aiden O'Connell at the end of the third quarter, Minshew shared his thoughts. "It is what it is. I'll try to help the team however I can. I'll keep being a voice on the sideline and provide a positive presence. No matter what my role is, I'm going to help the team in any way I can. That starts with getting back in the building tomorrow and getting back to work." Minshew is taking responsibility for what happened. He knows that interception changed the game and set the Raiders back. But the bigger issue for the Raiders in this game was the 3 turnovers on offense and the lack of any turnovers on defense. The Broncos went for it on 4th down on the very first drive of the game, and the Raiders couldn't stop them. That's a moment where you need to force a turnover. Turnovers win football games. The Raiders didn't get any turnovers, and this season, I think they've only forced 1 turnover so far. The Raiders' defense needs to step up and create turnovers, but the offense also has to protect the football better. It's about playing a balanced game and minimizing mistakes on both sides of the ball. The Raiders had 3 turnovers in this game, and that's likely what made the difference. Statistically, the Raiders performed much better than the Denver Broncos across the board. On 3rd down conversions, the Raiders were 7 of 15, while the Broncos only managed 3 of 12. This means the Raiders were able to keep their drives alive and control the clock better. They also averaged more yards per play and had a higher success rate running the ball. In almost every aspect on offense, the Raiders were superior, but those turnovers were the deciding factor. If the Raiders hadn't turned the ball over 3 times, they probably would have won. 2 of the 3 turnovers led directly to points for the Broncos. One was a pick six, and the other interception led to a touchdown. That's 14 points given away. If you subtract those points, the final score could have been 18-20, favoring the Raiders. Of course, the game doesn't work exactly like that, but it shows how costly those mistakes were. It's been a pattern this season. The Raiders have consistently found ways to lose games they should have won. It was the same story against the Chargers and Panthers. The team controls the game, but mental mistakes let the other team hang around, and eventually, they lose. Against the Chargers, the Raiders dominated the first half, but couldn't score touchdowns. They also handed the Chargers some free points through turnovers and poor decisions, like going for it on 4th down in their own territory. Against the Broncos, it was the same thing. The Raiders started strong, dominated the first quarter and part of the second, but then the mistakes began to pile up. That's something they need to clean up if they want to win games going forward. Players like Max Crosby need to continue calling out these mistakes and holding each other accountable. Antonio Pierce even mentioned in his press conference that missed tackles were a big problem. I noticed it too. There were several plays where the Raiders had a player wrapped up but couldn't bring him down. Instead of securing the tackle, they tried to knock the ball loose, and the player broke free for another 15 to 20 yards. That happened multiple times and hurt the team. The Raiders need to tackle better and stop giving up extra yards. The offense has to protect the ball, and the defense needs to force turnovers. It's not over yet for the season. Realistically, the Raiders could have 4 wins if they had just closed out games they were leading. The Panthers game was the only one where the Raiders got completely outplayed. The other losses, like against the Chargers and today's game against the Broncos, were games they controlled for a good portion. Momentum shifted because of mental errors. Hopefully, the Raiders can bounce back and play cleaner football. There's still a chance to turn things around. Whether it's Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew at quarterback, I'll support them and hope they get a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers next week. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time with another video.